everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I thought I would do a social commentary video, and the reason I'm doing this one is that I had a subscriber come into my comments last night and say something like, Dallas McCarver was such a legend, he was such an ambassador for the sport of bodybuilding, and he was such a powerful voice in the fitness community, and I was absolutely appalled. I was absolutely appalled by this statement. And I really and truly can't believe that there's a single person, rational, reasonable person anywhere in the world who feels that way. So let me put on my +5 out of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. And you know, guys, it's one of those where I didn't gloat. But if you guys recall, I was actually really saddened by the news of his death, even though I'm not a fan of bodybuilding. I'm completely opposed to professional bodybuilding, every element of it. I predicted his death about 6 months before he died. And people had said, wow, you actually did. They went and saw the video, and I said, this guy is not going to live long. He is going to be very, very short for this world. He won't be here in a few years. I said something to that effect, and I really meant it, and it wasn't meant to be insulting, it wasn't meant to be derogatory, it was of actual concern, because I don't know if he was a good or a bad person. I don't know. I have no way to know, but I saw a young man who was basically killing himself with excessive amounts of drug abuse. And that's the thing, you know, people will look at something like the bodybuilding and they'll say, oh, well, this guy, he may have died young, but it was just genetics, and no, guys, it's not just genetics. When people need to understand they're like, well, he did something legendary. He became the youngest guy to get an IFBB Pro card. Do you understand how he did that? That is literally like saying that you think someone is awesome for setting a record for the amount of crack cocaine that they could smoke. All right, that's what you are basically saying. Because when you look at him, he didn't have the most amazing genetics. He wasn't the most genetically gifted bodybuilder up there, was he? Did he have a fantastic knowledge of training or a work ethic that was better than anyone else up there? No. There's no reason to think that there was anything about his genetics, his training knowledge, his work ethic, anything else that was above average for the other guys competing in that particular endeavor, you know, that competitive endeavor. There was no indication of any of that. So how did he do? What is the only logical explanation? That he was willing to abuse more drugs and from a younger age than everyone else he was competing with. Is literally, that is the single solitary difference. And to say that someone is a legend purely based upon the fact that the only reason they were successful was that they were willing to abuse more drugs and starting at a younger age than other people. That's it. That's it. That's the only thing you can say about his whole bodybuilding thing. And people want to talk about fitness with that. And again, let's look at that fact. I mean, look at that for a moment. People want to say, oh, it was just his genetics, he got unlucky. It's not a coincidence that he was the youngest guy to become an IFBB Pro. It's, again, because he started abusing drugs at a younger age and in larger quantities than his contemporaries. That's it. That's why. And that was displayed by the fact that it killed him at 27. All right, and you look at that autopsy, and you realize both what his testosterone levels were on the autopsy and what they found with his heart. The guy's heart by the age of 27, now keep in mind, all these other guys he's competing with are all abusing gear, some of them abusing it even longer, so that should tell you something. That should tell you that he out-abused everyone else. The fact that his heart grew so large by the age of 27 that it could no longer physically beat. His heart was 3 times the weight of a normal human heart. And that's not a good thing, as in someone has a big heart. Well, in this case, it killed him. It simply did not have room to continue beating in his chest. You understand that he pulled that off by age 27. There are guys who are competing, even winning Mr. Olympias, who still haven't had that happen after retiring, who are in their 50s and stuff now. Now they're suffering health problems. Ronnie Coleman is suffering health problems. I have no doubt about that. Major health problems. But put that in perspective. Even he hadn't reached that point yet. That's not just genetics. It's the fact that he started abusing excessive amounts very, very young, and it caught up with him sooner. That's what is happening there. And then people say, well, I mean, you know, he just was willing to go the distance, and he must have lived a great life. I want to tell you something else. You guys better look at the blood work on the autopsy, and you tell me that guy lived a good life. Because it's one thing to abuse. It's another thing to push stuff to where it's almost physically impossible for you to abuse a drug the way that he did. You know, there's a limited amount of a drug a person can even get in their body through any mechanism. Anything you're talking about, doesn't matter what the substance is. I don't care whether it's alcohol or marijuana or anything else. There is a logistic issue with getting a certain amount of anything into your body, right? His blood serum levels would suggest to me that he was using, you know, around 10 grams of testosterone a week. That's a ballpark estimate based upon the autopsy. That's not counting trenbolone, growth hormone, anything else, just test and test derivatives. 10 grams. You guys understand what that is in cc's a week? You know, what's Boston Lloyd famous for? 3cc, Team 3cc? You guys understand that 10 grams of legit, not this black market stuff where they claim it's 400 milligrams because it's usually not. 10 grams. That's like 40 cc's a week. Do you understand the physical and logistic difficulty of even abusing that substance to that degree? Do you understand how physically hard it would be to actually put that into your body? Do you understand that this person probably walked around in continual pain just from the physical act of what he had to do to physically get it inside of his body would have caused him pain 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? Because you'll hear bodybuilders talk about, oh man, they did a whole 5 cc injection of test in their glute, and they'll talk about how bad it hurt for the next 3 days. That's 5. Now imagine 40. So he found a way to get 5 cc's into his body in 8 different spots through the week. And every one of these guys who do even the 5, what do they all say? You go read it anywhere online. Man, it really, really hurt for 3 days. I could barely walk. I could barely sit down. You hear crap like that. And I'm serious. Go look it up. Now, he's doing that equivalent like 8 times throughout his body, finding physical places to even put it. Do you understand this guy would have had multiple parts of his body that were in physical agony 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? You understand that he abused this stuff to the point where he probably just from physically putting it into his body, not even side effects of the substances, was in physical agony? That's not legendary, guys. That is self-abuse. That is self-hatred. That is self-loathing. And he died from it. It killed him at age 27. I mean, are we at the point to where we can find a reason to find a role model in someone purely for the fact that they were willing to abuse a substance that killed them to that degree, to a degree that other people just physically could not fit it inside their own bodies? Because his pain threshold was high enough to physically put this stuff inside of his body, that he's legendary, even though it killed him? That's a role model, that's someone that anyone would look up to and say, oh man, that's awesome? What in the hell is wrong with you? What in the hell is wrong with us as a community, even a fitness community, to where we see something like that and realize that this guy's blood work and autopsy revealed that his level of abuse was almost beyond human comprehension? Again, just the logistics alone of how he even physically was able to do this to himself suggests a degree of clinical pathology. Do you understand the level of masochism that you have to even physically do that to yourself, that level of self-abuse? All right, we're dealing with pretty much clinical levels of masochism, self-destruction, body dysmorphia, to even be able to physically force yourself to, put that much stuff physically inside of your body. And it just blows my mind that anybody looks at this and finds anything redeeming about his story other than having it being a tragedy. Do you understand that Dallas McCarver wasn't a legend? He wasn't a hero. He wasn't a role model. He was a sick addict who died young because of his own self-abuse. That's tragic. That is a story that if you really think about it, that is so sad that should actually make you almost depressed if you dwell upon it. That is a sad, horrific, tragic story of self-abuse and addiction, and there's nothing redeeming about that. because he did it to compete in something that some of you look up to, which is already a really gross, bizarre, twisted lifestyle, that because he was able to out abuse a whole lifestyle that's built upon a self-abuse and self-mutilation, that because he was able to do it more than other people, that's something worth looking up to and some ambassador. Yeah, I'll agree. Dallas McCarver was a fantastic ambassador for bodybuilding. He showed you what bodybuilding really is. It is a complete self-destructive death cult. That is what it is. It is absolutely insidious. And yes, he was an ambassador for something that is hideous and insidious and needs to go away. He was a great ambassador for that, and I agree. He represented the very worst of everything about pro bodybuilding, the stuff that anyone who really and truly cares about fitness or health or anything else would be denouncing. Anyone, I'm going to tell you right now, if you say that you honestly believe in fitness and you don't denounce pro bodybuilding, you're an absolute hypocrite. You're an absolute hypocrite, period. And so, yeah, he was a good ambassador for bodybuilding because he represented what it really is and what it has really become. And it's absolutely a repugnant, revolting lifestyle that involves self-harm. The entire lifestyle of it is based upon self-harm. All right, that is not something that we should be looking up to. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't a role model. He was a tragedy. He was a tragedy, and I legitimately feel sorry for the guy, and I'm shocked. I feel sorry for anyone who actually looks up to that. It's like, man, you need to get your priorities straight. You need to rethink your life if you admire that or see anything about that as legendary. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.